Minister Hlabisa is currently speaking. Let's listen in.
For whistleblowers, let me join you, Program Director, at the beginning by congratulating Professor Solos Pillay for all the accolades that she has won, which are a clear confirmation of the good work, Professor, you are doing. You are also a center of excellence. It is encouraging that in this gathering, we also have our future, the young boys and girls who are still at school-going age. Because sometimes we forget to build our future generations at the earliest. I really want to commend what you did to bring our children who are the future of our country so that they can inherit at the earliest the principles which Babita dies for. We gather where scholarship meets public purpose and where an agenda of accountability is carried forward by voices as diverse as the public protector, whom I have acknowledged, and also the chairperson of the Public Service Commission, Professor Usomadoda Figeni, and leaders of civic organizations who have stood firm against corruption. The program today reflects that unity of intent, a community bound by the conviction that ethical governance is not a slogan, but a lived reality, and that truth-telling is not a risk to be borne alone, but a civic act the state must protect. I speak as a minister responsible for cooperative governance and traditional affairs with both humility and urgency. Humility because we honor a public servant who embodied the best of our state: ethics, integrity, and honesty. Urgency because the conditions that endangered her life are rife to other whistleblowers and demand decisive action. Babita's story is a national tragedy and remains a sad and unfinished story. She rose within the Gauteng Department of Health to the post of Acting Chief Director for Financial Accounting, and she was, by very credible account, an indispensable ally to the Special Investigating Unit and the bulwark against irregular payments. In the weeks before her assassination, on 23 August 2021, she flagged nearly 850 million in suspicious transactions linked to the Hlabisa hospital. She tried to hold about 100 million in payment and sent a warning that our lives could be in danger. Unfortunately, she was ambushed outside her home and died because she stood between criminal syndicates and public money meant for patient care. Her work exposed not a single operation, but a networked extraction economy, suppliers and connected intermediaries feeding off hospital budgets through inflated invoices, bizarre purchases of non-medical items, and a flood of transactions routed through dozens of shell entities. The subsequent SIU investigation confirmed the breadth of the rot, and by September this year, identified syndicates linked to more than 2 billion rand in looting at Hlabisa Hospital, implicating at least 15 officials and triggering assets freezes and referrals to the National Prosecuting Authority. The figure eclipses the initial 850 million Batipa flagged, a testament to how corruption spread when systems failed to act with urgency after she raised an alarm. 6 men were convicted for her murder, but up to now, the masterminds remain to be held accountable. We are grateful for every investigative breakthrough, but we still need to do more with urgency. It is true that our whistleblower framework has for too long left courageous individuals exposed. The Protected Disclosures Act was designed to shield employees from occupational harm, but its coverage and mechanisms have not kept pace with reality. It does not adequately protect contractors, volunteers, or family members. It has somehow weak confidentiality provisions, and it lacks some supportive structures for legal security and psychological assistance, and as a result, it does not provide incentives that match the personal risk whistleblowers take. That is why the Department of Justice process, prompted by the Zondo Commission's recommendations to draft a whistleblower protection bill and review witness protection system, is not only welcome but indispensable. The reforms being discussed under this new bill include expanding the definition of a whistleblower, criminalizing threats, creating dedicated support agencies, enabling anonymous disclosures, and resourcing protection from the Criminal Asset Recovery Fund. We must support and accelerate the bill with the changes it will introduce. The imperative to protect truth tellers has sharpened further with the establishment of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into Criminality, Political Interference, and Corruption in Criminal Judicial System, the Majana Commission, whose hearings began in September. Constituted in July and chaired by the retired judge, Mbuyiseni Madlanga, the commission is probing allegations that cut to the bone of public trust, from interference in investigations to the infiltration of organized crime into policing and prosecution. The Department of Justice has indicated that the witness protection guidelines for the Commission have been finalized. This is not a bureaucratic note, but a life or death safeguard for those who step forward. And yet, even as the nation undertakes that inquiry, we were confronted over the past weekend by another devastating loss. Marius van der Merwe, known to the Commission as Witness D, was assassinated outside his home in Brakpan, reportedly ambushed with assault weapons as he returned from dinner with his family. Witness D has just testified in November about torture and a custodial death linked to operation in Brakpan, naming patterns of abuse and coercion that demanded further investigation. Unfortunately, he is no more. The president of our country have condemned this killing as heinous, and law enforcement activated a national manhunt through the National Joint Operation and intelligence structures, and the civil society rallied to the family side when it was undergoing this difficult moment. We are hopeful that the 3 people that have been identified and one that has been interrogated in relation to the death of Witness D will result to arrest and hard sentencing, including the masterminds behind the death of Mr. Marius van der Merwe. We extend our deepest condolences to his family, and we recommit, not with platitude, but with policy, to ensuring that no witness, whistleblower, or investigator will face such a fate without the full protection of the state. These matters are not random acts. Babita was killed because she blocked the flow of illicit payments. Witness D was killed because he lifted the veil on alleged state crime collusion. The casual pain, exposure, retaliation, and impunity thrives where institutions are weak, where oversight is performative, and where consequences are sporadic. That chain must be broken at the local government, where financial and procurement chaos create fertile ground for collusion. Here is a hard evidence which speaks louder than any rhetoric. The Auditor General's consolidated report on local government's audit outcomes for 2023-2024 shows that only 16% out of 257 municipalities achieved good accountability in terms of the money exposed to these 257 municipalities. The message is clear. Accountability cannot be an annual plea. Accountability must be a system of enforceable duties. In this regard, the Auditor General has demonstrated that through her powers, grounded in the Public Audit Amendment Act of 2018, have begun to bite. When a material irregularity is detected, the accounting officer must act to prevent loss and recover the funds. Failure to do so will trigger remedial action from AG and ultimately a certificate of debt that holds official personally liable. Just last month, the Auditor General issued the first certificate of debt of 4.6 million against the municipal manager of Ngaka Modiri Molema District Municipality for overclaimed kilometers and hours on a water tankering contract where remedial directives were ignored. As COPTA, we supported what the AG did because it is time for accountability in order to fight the corruption at its core. The action by the AG was a watershed moment. It signaled that the era of recommendations without consequences is coming to an end. As COPTA, we align all instruments under our mandate with this accountability architecture. In October 2020, the Local Government Anti-Corruption Forum was established under the chairship of the Special Investigating Unit with COPTA as the Secretariat to coordinate law enforcement, oversight, provincial support, and civil society engagement in rooting out municipal corruption. We have strengthened this forum's utility by introducing quarterly progress reviews and joint actions on investigations, ethics training, and fraud risk assessments aligned with the district development model. This must become the default ecosystem within which whistleblowers in municipalities are heard, protected, and supported. At the same time, we commend the action taken by the Parliament. The Parliament has moved to establish an ad hoc committee to examine the allegations, statements made by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in his 6 July briefing on political killings and alleged interference. The committee has called for sworn submissions and began hearings to separate speculation from evidence and to determine appropriate remedial action. Our role, both as department and as cabinet, is to support the integrity of that process and ensure that any recommendations are translated into operational changes. The alignment between the ad hoc committee's work and the Majana Commission is not incidental. It is a convergence of oversight designed to restore public trust in criminal justice system. But oversight alone will not protect truth tellers. We must move from investigation to guarantees that are firm, operational, and funded. Let me therefore set out the commitments that I will sponsor to the presidency and thereafter to justice, police, the Auditor General, the SIU, SALGAM, and civil society. Firstly, to institutionalize municipal whistleblower protocols as a mandatory element of council governance. Each municipality will have to be required to adopt and publicly display a safe reporting framework that includes anonymous digital channels aligned to national standard, secure evidence handling procedures, rapid referral pathways to the SIU and the SAPS, and a duty on the municipal manager to trigger risk-based protective measures upon receipt of credible disclosures. The protocols will be audited annually and linked to the Auditor General's manual irregular process so that failure to protect whistleblowers is treated as a governance breach with financial consequences. Secondly, to co-design with the Department of Justice a municipal tier of the forthcoming whistleblower protection bill. Local government is where people live and is where everyday corruption is experienced most directly. The bill will have to provide for protective orders that can be initiated at the municipal level, rapid access to protection services for whistleblowers and their families, and dedicated funding for legal, security, and psychosocial support. I therefore endorse the proposals advanced by the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council and civil society organization to expand coverage beyond employees and to criminalize threats and exposure of identities. I also support using the Criminal Assets Recovery Fund to support whistleblowers who lose income or incur cost as a result of their disclosures. Thirdly, we should embrace consequence management, not as a phrase, but as a traceable set of actions. Where the Auditor General identifies a material irregularity, mayors and councillors must act within defined deadlines. Where remedial directives are ignored, COPTA will support the Auditor General in pursuing certificate of debt and will require provincial COPTA to report quarterly on the collection of those debts and on disciplinary steps taken against officials if non-compliance is identified. Where law enforcement referrals are made, the Local Government Anti-Corruption Forum will track cases to completion and publish progress dashboards so that communities can see that justice is not deferred. And fourthly, for us to convene a whistleblower security compact with net joins the SIU, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, and the provincial community safety departments to standardize threat assessment, rapid deployment, and protective surveillance for high-risk witnesses in municipal corruption matters. The activation witnessed in response to Witness D, assassination must not be ad hoc. It must be an articulated system with triggers, timelines, and accountability in lockstep with the Majana Commission's witness guidelines. And fifthly, we should professionalize the local government leadership and administration with ethics at the center. This is already reflected in our ongoing review of the 1998 White Paper on Local Government, our push to stabilize coalition government, and the call for credible performance planning, financial discipline, and institutional integrity that the Auditor General has begun. Professionalization means not just qualifications and competencies, but character and conduct. People can be highly qualified and highly competent, but remain corrupt. At the heart of professionalization, therefore, it must be character and conduct. Leaders who set the ethical tone, who protect whistleblowers, and who refuse to accept unethical conduct. This means that councils must insist on transparency in procurement. Council must interrogate patterns of small value slicing designed to evade tender threshold, and that councils must enforce consequence management for unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless expenditure. Sixthly, we will have to deepen partnership with civic organizations that have been the everyday guardians of accountability. Civic organizations like OTA, Corruption Watch, Professional Institute, and business integrity units that have played a vital role in exposing malfeasance in our municipalities and supporting the whistleblowers. It is in this regard our municipalities will formalize collaboration, including joint training, early warning analytics, and community reporting platforms in districts with the highest procurement risks. And seventhly, we will have to honor the dead with measurable change. Babita's death seeded a national reckoning about how the shadow state operates and how courageous individuals become targets when they stand in its way. Witness D's death is a fresh wound for our country, determined not to be intimidated. We must translate mourning into mandates, audits that lead to debt certificates, disclosures that lead to prosecutions, evidence that leads to conviction, and anti-corruption culture that is taught to our youth, lived by everyone, and led by every institution. In doing so, we will ensure that we clean our local government space, which is at the center of corruption. There are municipalities, though, that are doing very well. I think I must highlight that one. Year after year, they receive clean audit from the Auditor General, which is a demonstration that while we're experiencing a high rate of challenges in our municipalities, but not everything is hopeless. And we are encouraging these municipalities to become exemplary to other municipalities to ensure that accountability and transparency becomes the order of the day. These pockets of excellence, where internal controls function as designed, where performance reports are credible, and where communities feel the difference in service delivery, is what we commend as what should be taking place in all our municipalities. Those municipalities are not exception to be admired from a distance. They are models to be replicated through targeted support, peer learning, and the firm expectation that council can and must improve. I want to convey a message directly to our municipal officials who are today wrestling with their own dilemmas. Our municipal officials have seen things that trouble their conscience. They fear the personal cost of exposing wrongdoing. They wonder if anyone will stand with them if they expose the rot in their areas. I want to assure our officials, the government will stand with you. We will ensure that your disclosures are received safely, that your identity is protected, that your evidence is acted upon, and that the state is present not only in courtrooms, but to ensure that you receive maximum protection when you expose the rot. The cost of speaking up must never again be the loss of a person's life or livelihood. The public service must be a place where courage is known, not a gamble. In my capacity also as a Minister of Cooperative, I want to address our councillors and mayors. Leadership is not a title. It is the acceptance of moral responsibility. Demand integrity in supply chain decision and ask why orders are sliced below threshold. Mayors and councillors must insist on job cuts that match kilometers driven and hours worked. They must ask why water tankers are building roads that do not exist. They must hold accounting officers to remedial deadlines. If they fail, support the issuance of certificate of debt. I want to encourage them. They must not defend the indefensible because it is politically convenient. It has costed our country dearly. To our partners in academia and civil society gathered here today, your platform matters. And I've taken note of the recommendations that go to the government that have been shared here. Because as a minister who sits in the cabinet, I carry a responsibility on behalf of the government to be an ear of the government wherever I am. Without diverting on the subject, I am very encouraged that we are consolidating the steps that we are going to take against gender-based violence and femicide. The previous Friday, there was a special cabinet meeting to look on matters and actions that must be taken to ensure that the gender-based violence is brought to an end. We cannot live in a country where in every 3 hours, one woman is killed by a man. This is bad. And I was encouraged that the cabinet is going to roll out an intensive program which will ensure that the repeated offenders, as the Department of Justice is dealing with some changes, the repeated offenders get maximum punishment and also do not get easy bails to commit a crime, spend a few days in prison, and get a bail and continue committing a crime. We want a radical change to deal with rapists, the murderers, the people who are the perpetrators of the gender-based violence and femicide. Similarly, the whistleblowers deserve an immediate action from the government. What happened to Babita's demise and Witness D over the weekend leave us as a nation in shame that when people tell the truth, they become the victims. That is why I'm saying, therefore, this platform that was created goes a long way in rebuilding our country, in reshaping our society. The annual lecture that is held today is not merely ceremonial. It is a convening of evidence, ethics, and a call for action for men and women to be courageous and tell the truth. The biographies and contribution of leaders featured in today's program remind us that public service is a virtue cultivated across institutions, from universities and ombudsman offices to investigative units and community organizations. As we dedicate new books, share research, and teach ethics, let us ensure we are shaping a generation of officials and activists who cannot be bought, who cannot be silenced, and who are supported by systems that honor their courage. Our fight against corruption is not just about theft and numbers, it is about dignity. When money meant for hospital becomes profit for a shell company, it is the poorest patient who pays, with long queues, with broken equipment, and with an avoidable death. When an official falsifies kilometers driven, it is the rural family without water who pays, with hours spent on carrying buckets, with a day of school lost to our children, and with a burden borne by those who least deserve it. When an investigator is killed for telling the truth, the whole of society lives with fear, with a culture that whispers, keep your head down. We need to change that culture. Change begins with honesty. It continues with systems, and it is sustained by courage. Babita's honesty exposed the syndicate. The system, unfortunately, failed her, and her courage became the reason for the shadow state to strike back. We will honor her always by setting the tone of fixing the system and ensuring that courage is recognized as we do today and in many years to come. That is the meaning of what we are saying to our municipality. When we say every municipality must work, we mean to say every municipality must be ethical. Every municipality must protect the truth teller. I want to close with gratitude and resolve. Gratitude to the Deokaran family, whose dignity has deepened our national conscience and whose persistence demands justice that goes beyond the hitmen to those who ordered her murder. Gratitude to witnesses who continue to testify at the Majana Commission despite threats, and to the committees in Parliament who have insisted that allegations be tested and that the truth be pursued without fear or favor. Resolve because we know what must be done. Truth must be told. This administration will standardize municipal whistleblower protocols and support the Whistleblower Protection Bill and its witness protection reforms, and also the measures to be enforced by the Auditor General's material irregularity issues when the certificate of debt is issued. And we will strengthen the local government anti-corruption forums investigations that are being coordinated and stand operationally ready with the net joints to protect those at risk. We will ensure that we publish progress, invite scrutiny, and measure outcomes, not only in reports, but in lives safeguarded and monies recovered. Babita's legacy is not only a cautionary tale, it is a mandate. Witness D's death is not only a tragedy, it is a warning and a call. We hear them both, and we commit as leaders, institutions, and citizens to building a capable, ethical, and developmental local government where integrity is habitual and whistleblowers are treated not as liabilities, but as the immune system of our democracy. May their courage be our standard. May their memory be our moral compass. And may our actions honor their sacrifice. And thank you very much, President Director.